Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at the first set of planned battle racing changes for January of 2024, and well, of 2024 overall. Usually we get a set of battle rating changes after the event, and I thought they would come out next week, but it turns out they've already put them out, and looks like a lot of vehicles are missing, is probably the best way of putting it. So really see this as a preliminary list of battle rating changes, since I'm sure they're going to do a ton of other changes going forward. They usually have 1, 2, or 3 steps of these, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's an update by Friday or Monday when we see some extra ones. The major parts that they're changing is the maximum battle rating for aviation is going up to 12.7. So that will affect a ton of vehicles at the highest echelon of the game. The other thing they're also doing is moving up stuff like the Type 81 and a bunch of other AAs, which we'll get into, and also the AGS for some reason, probably because of the reload. They're screwing with simulator battles as well, just to basically get in the new BR change, or the maximum BR change for aviation. So if you are interested in that, make sure to have a look. As always, I will put the BR changes on the screen. I don't always have footage of all of the vehicles, so there's always at least 1 or 2 comments talking about the fact that I should show the footage of each of the vehicles. Just remember, there's over 2,000 of them in the game. I can't play them all, and neither can anybody else. Anyway, let's get into the changes and see what's going on. What we'll do is split this into 2 separate videos. So in this one we'll go over ground forces, and then in the other one we'll do the aviation and also the naval stuff. So in ground forces I focus on realistic because that's what I play. And we start off with the Csaba. The Csaba, which is the Hungarian vehicle at the start of the tech tree, and I've always been kind of confused why the vehicle was 1.3 and not 1.0. The Csaba as a vehicle is really not very good, only having the 20mm solid turn QF36M. Its penetration was low, its mobility was alright, but its survivability was pretty much 0, since you can just shoot it center mass. The reason why a bunch of other vehicles can get away with this, such as the AB41 for example, is because even though they have the 20mm, it has the automatic cannon, so it's able to like send out a lot of other rounds and has more penetration than the Csaba. And the fact is, the Csaba is a higher BR than the AB41, even though the AB41 is just better than it in every way. So it never really made sense. This is a positive change. Kind of surprised it took as long as it did. The next set starts off with the Flak Panzer 38, going from 1.3 to 1.7, another just auto-cannon vehicle at lower BRs, which is very good. The Flak Panzer is one of the weaker ones because it doesn't have a ton of survivability. Stuff like the Panzer IIs, for example, are a lot better, but those vehicles went up a long time ago, showing the kind of proliferation of these 20mm autocannon machines. If you haven't played Germany Reserves, you might not realize how powerful these machines are, whether it is in the anti-tank role or even in the anti-air role, because a lot of vehicles are pretty slow in the air at those BRs. Germany is super easy to start off with, and one of the things that makes the Flak Panzer strong is the fact that they give it access to the HVAP, which gives it nearly 50mm of penetration. No idea why they insist on giving a lot of these AA machines tank-killing capabilities, but the Flak Panzer just goes up, along with stuff like the Panzer IIs that have gone up a while ago. The Stuarts are also going up. The Stuart 1 and the M3 Stuart are going from 1.7 to 2.0, following their brethren, the other Stuarts, the M5s, which actually went up more previously. So the M3 Stuart is mobile, it's got a fast-firing gun, and the major thing that it has over a lot of other vehicles at the BR is stabilization. It actually has a vertical stabilizer on the gun, making it a lot easier to use and getting the gun on target. This is also super useful at these tiers where a lot of people don't have the crew skills to be able to actually keep, the gun in a stable position all the time, because crew skills do affect your targeting speed at the end of the day. So seeing the Stuarts go up, no surprise to me. Every other Stuart has gone up, so there's no reason why the M3 wouldn't as well. We also have a bunch of other wheeled vehicles which got massive buffs about a year ago now, which are also going up in BR. Stuff like the PZSPWG P204 FKWK, which is the kind of French-German conversion where they took the French vehicle once they invaded France, the good old AMD 35, and then they plonked a 50mm turret on it in kind of an open kind of turret deal. So you're marrying two pretty good ideas. Great mobility and also a 50mm L42, which doesn't have the most penetration compared to the KWK 39-1, but still packs a punch at 1.7. So to see that going up, not really a surprise. It doesn't have stabilization though, and not a lot of survivability, so it doesn't have as much reason to go up compared to a lot of the other vehicles that are around, but it is still a good vehicle. The Panzerbill M40, which is the first Swedish vehicle that is increasing in BR. This is another one of those vehicles that's used heavily in events, and this is the reason why it's going up in BR. A lot of people use the Panzerbill because it's super mobile. It also has the autocannon 20mm and access to APT, which penetrates 42mm. Whenever I played around these BRs during events because of Pages of History stuff, I see so many Panzerbill M40s around the place, and they just wreck house because they have very good autocannons. Usually the people who are playing them do have access to good crew skills and just use them to hammer stuff. So these last two are straight up because people are using these vehicles at lower tiers during events to be able to annihilate people, which is why I don't personally like these rank 1 vehicles being available to use in events, because it means the new players just get hammered by veterans who have very good crew skills, who have vehicles that they can never own, and also just hammering them over and over again. It sucks, it really does. The next one's the PVK V4, which is once again going down in BR. This thing started at 3.7, and now it's going to be at 3.0. Not a surprise at all. Turns out APDS can only carry you so far. The vast majority of Rank 1, Rank 2 Sweden relies heavily on the APDS of their guns to do damage. Whether it's the 37mm or other vehicles, you need that APDS, whether it's at reserve or even at 2.7. The PVK V4 is no different. You have this round which has great penetration, and it has British syndrome, which means that when you penetrate, nothing happens afterwards. And guess what's around these BRs? T-34s and KV-1s. Guess which vehicles got super buffs when the armor changes came in, and also the ammo changes came in when it came to volumetric shells. And guess what vehicles got huge nerfs? Anything with quite low caliber APDS or even APF-SDS. So the 57mm on the PVK-V4, even if you look at its stats and it's like, wow, it nearly pens 200mm? That's insane. Yeah, but even if you pen, let's say, 130mm, the most you're going to do is 1 or 2 crew damage, and if you run into people who are abusing KV-1Bs and KV-1Es, which once again are not on this list, you are just going to die. The major issue with this is the fundamental problem that a lot of vehicles have. The targeting speed is terrible, and getting the gun on target takes too long. You start running into short-stop stabilizers at this BR, they don't take a long time, and you just get hammered. A lot of other vehicles have this problem. The M51 is one of those which also struggles with this, which is why it's never gone up in BR, even with its other characteristics. The AMX-13 FL11 goes up again. It's because it's a fantastic vehicle. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people who are complaining about this because of the fact it's another light tank which is going up in BR for France. One of the things that is never mentioned is these vehicles are very, very powerful and have been for an insanely long time, and that's why they keep going up in BR. The French light tanks have a lot of mobility. They have either punchy guns, they have some kind of advantage over the enemy that's around them, whether it's being able to sit in smaller areas, whether it's having a lower silhouette, whether it's having ridiculous survivability compared to what you should, or whether it's the fact that you can scout and then follow up with AP/APC/BC. The vehicles all perform really well, and it's why if you play the French tech tree, you will understand what's going on with them. Then you have the AMX-13 DCA-40. This is going up to 5.0. There's a bunch of vehicles now which they are massively putting up in BR when it comes to AAs. No idea why they're doing it. We've talked about previously how there's a lot of gaps in many of these tech trees when it comes to AAs, and this obviously is not really helping the scenario. The AMX DCA 40 was at 4.3, which was quite nice, but it doesn't have a lineup. So moving it up to 5.0, which is what they're doing, means that you basically run it with the same vehicles you would anyway because of the lineups. So it doesn't make a huge one, but it does accentuate the problem that France has, where between the CCKW 353, which really isn't a great AA, and the AMX 13 DCA 40, you now have a 3.0 BR gap, which shows that that needs to be filled. And they've added the TPK 641 and the AMX 10P. That's grand, but they're also both higher BR than the AMX 13 DCA. So hopefully in the next update, we see a slot into that to try and help them out. The Leopard 4070 goes up as well, even after the changes to make it so it wasn't bugged. E.g., they made it so it can actually get overpressured now. So artillery is quite dangerous to it, and other forms of munitions are quite dangerous to it. It's still a very powerful vehicle. Not at all surprised that it's going up in BR. The M41A3 for China is increasing to 5.3. I mean, fair enough. I suppose it follows a lot of the other Bulldogs, which have gone up in BR. I've talked about this many times. I really don't like the Bulldogs in general. I think they're just large vehicles with access to guns, which aren't as punchy as many others at their BR, but that one was put at quite a low BR because they decided not to give it APDS, and yeah, 5.0 was definitely a long shot for that. It's not a surprise to me at all that is increasing, because I always felt it was a little bit lower than it needed to be. The APDS on the standard Bulldog does not really help it that much. The APDS is in the same position as the PVKV4, as we talked about previously. Then you have the AMX 10P and the TPK 641 that we talked about previously. Both of them are going up in BR, so they both are very powerful and they both are really good. So not a surprise. You know, high velocity, high powered autocannons with good targeting speed are always going to be good at AA duties, and since at least one of them has scouting, it gives it an extra string in the bow, which is very nice. The T20 also goes up in BR. A lot of people are going to complain about this because of the lack of stabilizer on the machine. That's fine, doesn't really matter. It's still a very powerful machine. There's a lot of vehicles around 6.0/6.3 that don't have stabilizers. The T20 does at least have the vertical on its 76mm and also has the really nice transmission on it, which everybody just seems to forget about, which makes it really good. So the vehicle itself is going to keep going up until it probably runs into that 6.7 area, and people will stop playing it, and then people will go back to playing the T25 again, and then that thing will go up, because once again, it's just one of those vehicles that's very, very good. The AMX M4 goes up once again, another very powerful French vehicle. One day, people will realize how overpowered the French tech tree generally is. It's insane. If you actually have a look at most nations, I bet you the most vehicles that have gone up in BR have actually been in the French tech tree, and they'll still be powerful. The fact is, good reloads, good AP, good mobility gets you pretty far. And in the mid-tiers, that's what France has. The only thing that it struggles with is CAS. And with the AMX M4 going up, it won't really make a difference. It'll still be really powerful. It'll still do really good. It's a solo carry vehicle, so I don't really think about, you know, the lineup that it needs, because you can just win a battle by yourself in the vehicle. The Type 99 increases in BR. I've heard good things about it. I haven't played it yet. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get around to it. I know a lot of people have been talking about having a great time with the vehicle, and especially one of the things I will mention is when I was playing the M109s, I got a lot of kills with that gun, which I feel like were undeserved. And the reason for this is because of that overpressure bug that was going on, where I was shooting stuff like Tigers in the turret and just shooting them point blank, and they would just die. And when I did that a month ago, they wouldn't die. And I really want them to be careful with these SPHs, because since they fixed that bug, their actual efficiency is going to go way down, because there's going to be a lot of shots which weren't kill shots, which were seen as kill shots before. So hopefully they just don't go crazy with these things, just because of that bug. The T95 is also going up in BR. People are obviously struggling to kill the thing. The T95 is not hard to deal with. Never has been hard to deal with. It's just one of those vehicles that can, on conquest battles, be really annoying to deal with. So the thing is, you have to flank it and go around, and if there's a bunch of them, and if they get good field position, it can be hard to deal with. But changing its PR doesn't really change that. Just means it's going to face more heat, and it's just going to get hammered in the face. So don't think it'll make too much of a difference. Then you got the AMLs. The AML-90s are going up. The ML-90 for Israel, the French one, and also the Elan 90 Mark 7, which is basically the same vehicle, just slightly different. But it's when it comes to the factors that actually make it a thing in the game, it's exactly the same. All of these vehicles are fantastic. Once again, very, very small vehicles that you can hide in areas, very good scout, and a punchy 90mm, which can also do, a lot of kills, as long as you aim for stuff like ammo or crew in central areas. The actual counter to stuff like AMLs is autocannons, and a lot of the autocannons around these BRs aren't very good or used that much. Like the BTR, for example, is a very good counter to the AML, but it's, not seen as much because of its lack of stabilization, and also because you just can't deal with stuff like heavies, so it is a bit of a problem. Chad 25T goes up again, AMX 50 goes up again, Samoa goes up again, EBR goes up again. I've talked about these vehicles so many times and how they're in and are crazy broken and have been for a long time. I don't think I need to once again address why these vehicles are going up. I've talked about it to death. So yeah, no surprise once again that these vehicles are increasing because they have all of the attributes that fit and suit the game very well. Once again showing that the French tech tree, especially mid to high tier, is very strong. The Falcon goes up. That's sad, really. The Falcon is one of the best multi-purpose vehicles in the game. It has this APDS belt, which, as I said before, it kind of sucks that a lot of these AA machines are used in this kind of pseudo role. The Falcon has APDS, which pens 110 millimeters, so it can go through the front of a lot of vehicles, and a lot of people use it as a dual threat setup, and it works really well as it. So not surprising to see it go up, but it just kind of sucks because you know what? If they just remove that one round, it loses 2 BR brackets. It's that simple, but they just choose not to do it. They did change that belt. It used to have more APDS in it, but if they just removed that one, it would be super simple, to be able to set up. The Strela goes up. Is anybody surprised? Is anybody surprised that the Strela has gone up in BR? If you want to see how ridiculous the Strela is, I did a video about it last week and kind of basically showed how silly just the whole setup is. Like the Strela is insanely powerful as a vehicle. Probably the best AA. According to Gaijin, the Type 81C, which has gone up by a whole BR bracket, by the way, like it's gone from 10.0 to 11.0, is, the most efficient AA. But that Strela is just disgusting. The only thing that ever kind of screws with the Strela is the IRCMs, if things have them, but most vehicles don't have them at that BR, and it just annihilates everything that's near. The problem with the Strela going up is it nukes that 9-3 Soviet lineup that is really fun to play. I mean, you can still play it, but you just don't have an SPAA threat. And to be honest, you don't really have, a superiority threat either. So puts a big hole in the lineup. But you can still play the Pancake Tank, the T64A, the T72A, and, the 2S25. So it's still a very powerful area. It just kind of sucks. Instead now, what you're going to have to do is run it with the T64B and the Chrysanthema, which isn't exactly as good. So it'll still be really nice. Like it's going to be a very well-performing vehicle. But yeah, it should be okay. And then the last one is the AGS, going from 10.3 to 11.0. The AGS will be also getting M833. So they're doing what they did with the IPM1 to the AGS because I don't know why. They're trying to preempt how powerful it's going to be by bumping it up 2 BR brackets. But yeah, the thing about the AGS is it's just a crewless turret and also a automatic loader. So it's very hard to destroy it if you only see the turret, and since a lot of maps favor that now, especially since it's quite small, you can just pop out the gun and then just keep getting shot in it over and over and over again, and nothing really happens. You can just keep scouting, repairing, shooting the gun, and having fun. So 5-second reload, really good gun depression. It's always been way better than its BR has kind of shown. And then the other thing to also mention is stuff like the CCVL, and also the other vehicles like the XM8 around those BRs have also been bumped up at some point in the past. The AGS is just the best of them because of the crewless turret. You know, there's nothing else to really say about it. So it is very, very powerful as a general vehicle. Overall, these changes are fine. Like, I can make sense of pretty much most of them. I'd just say they've got to be a bit careful with these AAs, and I know that sounds a little bit odd, but the AAs that are around the place now, the reason why they've been put in is because CAS is extremely powerful at specific BRs, and these nations need counters to them. So if they're deciding to put up a bunch of these AAs, it might have a very negative effect on those nations, and then they're just going to get hammered once again, which kind of sucks. So hopefully they've thought about that. Hopefully everything is, you know, hopefully we see like an update where they add a few more things. But yeah, the AA stuff worries me. Everything else is fine though at the end of the day. Look after yourselves. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.